Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Raw Barbell Club podcast. On today's episode, I have Ash Jones from Next Step Strength on. Ash is an Olympic weightlifting coach, a powerlifting coach, and someone who is super passionate about the Supertotal, something that I'm also passionate about, combining weightlifting and powerlifting together to make one gigantic competition, and training for strength as more than just a purist in our sport. He was very passionate, and this episode made me so pumped that we actually hired him to coach at Raw Barbell Club. This episode was filmed and recorded a couple of months ago, way before this COVID-19 business. So he's actually been working with us throughout that time and is currently still working with us now, and he's awesome. So I hope you guys love him as much as I do, and if you do love this episode as much as I do, consider sharing it. Honestly, just go over, find one of your friends, punch them in the face, and say, hey, you need to listen to this episode of the Raw Barbell Club podcast. And if you film it and send it to me, I'll probably repost that as well. If you really, really, really love this episode, like I did, please consider donating. Making this podcast is a lot of fun, but it does cost us some money. From bandwidth fees, hosting costs, and all of that, this podcast runs on your donations. All we're asking for is the price of a coffee. And honestly, if every single person that listened to this donated a coffee, we'd have enough money to keep this podcast going long term. I understand that now is a tough time financially for a lot of people, so this podcast will always remain free. But if you do have the spare cash and you're happy to donate, especially if you're not going out a lot like I am, then we'd love to have it because it does help this podcast keep growing. Thank you so much to every single person who has already donated, and I love you guys all. I love you guys all. I love all of you guys. You're the best, really. So there's this really cool podcast that focuses purely on weightlifting. It's called Weightlifting House, and it streams worldwide, and it's super popular. They make some amazing weightlifting products, two of which we actually stock in the Raw Barbell Club store online. So if you go to rawbarbellclub.com and look up our store, you'll be able to buy Weightlifting House thumb tape, which is designed for weightlifters by weightlifters. Basically, it's the best value for money tape that you can buy online. It is extra sticky, it tears easily, so there's no need for scissors. It's flexible, and it doesn't get in your way, and it doesn't leave a nasty residue either. Each box comes with 3 22-inch rolls, so you get so much for what you buy, and it's just awesome. I use it all the time, and I think you guys should too. So jump online and buy some of that if you're sick of hand cleaning and your thumbs falling off, because that sucks. And the second thing is that we're actually doing a pre-order on Weightlifting House bars. So this is something that I'm really passionate about because I've wanted a Weightlifting House bar since they brought them out, but it's really hard to get stuff here. So we have a certain amount of bars that we need to sell to make this actually happen, but we're doing a pre-order. So if you want to jump on that, please do. There's male and female bars, and they're Technial bearing bars. They're designed specifically for Olympic weightlifting. They got a good spin, good whip. They're pretty much like a weightlifting dream bar. If you love Weightlifting House, I think this would be a really cool bar to get. And right now, bars are really hard to find. So I think this would be worthwhile for a lot of people. If you're interested in that, again, jump online or just shoot me a DM. A lot of people have been buying them just through DMs and stuff. I think it'd be really exciting to get one of these bars. I hope you guys feel the same way. Just reach out. Anyway, enough of that stuff. I know I waffle on a bit here. I'm not good at reading copy. So let's get on to the podcast, and I'll see you at the end. I think we'll just have that little fan on.
I think it'll be necessary.
I'll do turn it down there. That's a bit nicer, right? Can you feel that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Makes a difference straight away.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I kind of just have it slightly to the side so that I'm sitting here, but
Yeah,
you can hear
I'll get it right.
How tall are you?
1.8
Oh.
meters. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You looked
It's
you looked a lot taller than me. I'm gonna put my seat up a little bit. I've got small man syndrome.
That's okay. I'm like just under 6 foot, so
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, 1.8. I never say like, 5'11" and a little bit. Like, on that cusp.
Everyone always does that. Like I told people I was like 174 for a long time until I measured myself. I'm like, holy crap, I'm only 170.
That's not accurate at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just say, oh yeah, almost 6 foot. So I get that 6 foot in there. So I'm on the cusp of being tall.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, it's crazy. So a lot of fitness businesses, they get that peak around the January period.
Yeah.
But for us, because our guys have like specific goals with like competitions and
Yeah, and unless you've got a competition February,
yeah,
you're not training through. And even then, it's going to be sporadic, and that's dedicated people anyway.
yeah. So it's super weird. They definitely don't come back until February.
Yeah, even like adherence is just like, it's only coming back in now. Like, people are like, yeah, I trained through. I'm like,
Did you?
Like, I see where it's noted off. Less so.
Because do you have a lot of because you do a lot of programming now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
For a lot of the reedy guys.
Yeah. So I've got about
Through-
like 15 like people like individually programmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through Next Step.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It's good. I love programming.
And that's separate to a reedy. So
Yeah,
that's your
yes,
own
that's-
business.
That's own. So, but like Craig and I are pretty cool with that, and probably going to be like, I do the Saturday, like a Saturday thing there, and probably going to maybe like start helping out there and stuff a little bit more, just because.
Joining forces a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like he's great. So I'm just like,
I know, I love him.
Yeah,
I really do like Craig. I think he's such a cool
that's
nice guy.
that's what it is, and it's like, it's more as well. Like, the more I can help out there, like, I'll do like whatever he. There's people that like, I'm not gonna want to periodized program for Supertotal or weightlifting or powerlifting, and if they just want a bit of general strength for CrossFit, that's where I can definitely help out, and that's what maybe something he would want, and that'll be a good combination.
For sure. Sure. You seem to have like carved your little niche out at at Aridi and Richmond and stuff, like with the Supertotal.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I'm not going to say I'm an early adopter, but I was like, before Supertotal, like, you've got some like people online now, like the MASH, and like the 1 ton challenge, if you've seen that.
Yeah, like Barbell Shrugs.
Barbell Shrug, that's with Travis Mash and stuff. Like, that's come around this year, but I was looking up Supertotal like 3 years ago, where it was just like Juggernaut Max Data. He's like a weightlifting and powerlifting coach. He was talking about it, and that's what I was already looking at, stuff like that. So I think it's more of an exposure thing as well. Like, it's pretty new for people, and it's new for me too. But it's just that extra 6 months a year of, I've read about it, I've thought about it, etc. So,
And we're on opposite ends, because I come from weightlifting.
yeah,
And you come from
powerlifting. Yeah. So it's an interesting, like, how they come together, but it's like, you see the similarities as well, and it's awesome to see, like, how training approaches are different between the two, and also like super similar.
So so when you came to, starting to program Supertotal and stuff, what were you sort of thinking? So like, the reason we're doing this episode is because you reached out on Instagram, were like, I listened to the Supertotal episode, I really liked it. I have a couple of questions and I have a couple of thoughts, and I was like, fuck dude, sorry, I shouldn't swear.
It'll come up again.
Come on and let's chat about it, and let's see if we can go through that, because a lot of the guys that listen to the Supertotal episode will be like your clients and stuff as well. So might as well have you on to explain it to them.
Might as well. Yeah. First of all, it was just like a general interest in Olympic weightlifting from powerlifting. I think a lot of people have that, like, you have a big peak of a powerlifting and you're just like, I don't really want to be doing squat and bench and dead at the moment. What's similar, what's fun, what's novel, Olympic weightlifting? And that's sort of where I just like started thinking that, and I pretty much was in love with strength sports anyway, so it was like, how do I juggle the both? And from there, just like, how do you work both?
Yeah.
And then that was the main thing. Just like, how do you work both? Then just a bunch of reading and just like, how do other people do it? No one really else does it. How can you do it? And just having ideas from there.
Yeah, fair enough. And what have you changed since you started integrating the Olympic lifts into your programs?
I would say most thing is managing load and like the differences between lifts. Like snatch and deadlift are not the same. Like you can't program them the same. Like how the lifts complement and like contrast each other. That would be the main difference.
So like for example, someone listening, 3x5 deadlift at 70% is very different at 3x5 snatch at 70%.
Even it's different to a squat, it's different to a bench, like, and also like the different strength and skill curves of the lifts. So you're probably going to be snatching more frequently because otherwise you, especially coming from powerlifting, don't have the technique, haven't been doing it that long. So you're going to be having to do a specific snatch work quite frequently rather than like, you deadlift and it's pretty hard of a day, maybe once a week with a secondary something like session.
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming from powerlift background, you might even just deadlift like once every 2 weeks, right?
That's what some people do, but like one of the things as well I like to do, well, this is how I found the best way to implement the programming is go more sub-maximal and do more frequency.
Yeah.
Because when you've got so much more to do, specificity becomes key. So when you've got to focus on deadlift, okay, we've got to dial in the technique, we've got to be in that optimal like volume range, like you've got to work at a specific relative intensity and then cater to that around the other lifts. That's how I approach it. So higher frequency, more sub-maximal. Yeah. So you're able to hold the technique and strength as you go through the program. Yeah. Well, that's how. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So if, for example, like I just like giving people
definitely.
examples as well of what you're talking about. So in a regular program, if you went like week 1 deadlift 3 sets of 5 at 70%.
Yep.
Week 2 might be 3 sets of 5 at 75%.
Yep.
Week 3, 3 sets of 5 at 77 or 80%
Yep.
if you're really pushing them.
And then deload off for that 4th week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas if we were doing once every 2 weeks, we might actually bump up those percentages or bump up the reps. You might do 5x5
Yep.
at like 73%, 75% in that first week.
Perfect.
And then not deadlift again for 2 weeks. And then
because that load and that the fatigue management part of Supertotal, and especially juggling of CrossFit, that's the main thing. Or it's all just fatigue management and just making sure you're still fit and not destroying yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's all like, and that's what I would say my biggest learning, like what I've learned most since starting about Supertotal and juggling with CrossFit, like Tommy, like he's really pretty good at CrossFit and pretty good at powerlifting when he first started, and it's like, how do we mesh all these things together without like
disruption?
Absolutely, stepping on the other parts. It's just, and then by that you just need to, what are you actually doing and what is fatiguing you most?
Yeah.
And then it's always better to take a step back than having to take 5 steps back later.
So you,
as in a deload.
Can you use Tommy as an example and, you know, tell me how you did structure it? Because
he's
absolutely.
A
really great example of someone who was a decent powerlifter, but he's actually hitting his best numbers now, right?
Yeah. So he's still eking out gains, but the general volume that he's putting towards his power lifts is far less than it used to be.
Yeah.
So he's still getting PBs, but it's getting that, what is the minimum effective dose for him at the moment whilst juggling his CrossFit and weightlifting. So I'd say let's just say his training split would be majority CrossFit, then weightlifting, then powerlifting, but that's because he's the best powerlifter.
Yeah.
So other people will have theirs
skewed the other way.
Exactly. So if someone's a weightlifter, probably don't need to snatch or clean and jerk as much because your technique is ingrained already. You'll probably have to bench a bunch because you're not. If you're coming from CrossFit or weightlifting, you're going to have to bench. The frequency is just going to be heaps higher because you're going to have that technically ingrained, and there's going to be heaps of volume you're going to make up for muscle strength. Like, it's just balancing those both. So you got Tommy. He's jacked.
Yeah.
So
And great at a great bencher, great deadlift. He's actually very well rounded for a powerlifter.
He's
as
very
well.
well rounded. It's annoying how good he is. So when it comes to his programming, his bench is pretty good. So, and he is...
It's like a 165 at
it's
80 kilos.
Yeah, so he's approaching double body weight at the moment. His last Supertotal comps, he's been like actually under the weather both times. So it was like not expected numbers, but like how he was training was far exceeding the lifts he hit. Like he was doing like 3 CrossFit comps coming into the last one and stuff like that. But like I'd say like just let's go back to his bench. 1 heavy, so he would do like, let's just say, I do a lot of daily undulated, so like let's just say 3s and 5s.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll hit a single on the day of 5s, then drop back to 5s, and then so that'll be a Tuesday. On a Friday he'll do 3s, 3 sets, and then that will go up 4% the next week, deload, and then I have a performance week, which is more or less a mini test.
Yeah.
So that's how I would do his bench, and deadlift will be similar, but it wouldn't be 2 days. It might be deadlift with a heavy accessory on a different day, RDLs or something else like that, maybe a hex bar. And then squat, he actually responds better to like 2, and that's also, I've worked with him for a little bit, so I know like 2 days is pretty good for him with the accessory. So that's more or less what we keep in, but we'll have like the accessory be like a front squat or a pause front squat to better represent his, like, for his clean.
Yeah. Because that's a struggle for him catching that clean sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And we try and get more work for that clean and just clean and a specific front complex for him.
Yeah.
Because he's so strong, therefore we need to get like leg strength issues isn't a
yeah,
thing
it's a technical capacity issue. So it's finding those positions, spending more time in the positions.
Exactly, and that's one thing getting people strong and then good at weightlifting. It's all finding that positional strength and the understanding of the movement. That's when the sub-maximal training comes in more, because feeling the weight and feeling the technique becomes more important, especially if you can't take a week off snatching if you've only done 6 months of snatching.
Yeah.
You've got to feel the weight once or twice a week, preferably twice, if not more, and then don't lose that. Like, you've got to continue work on the technique. That's what I found most as well, like the difference in technique for powerlifting and weightlifting. Like, powerlifting is extremely important, but it doesn't dissipate.
And I guess a cool thing to note as well that we didn't touch on really in the podcast, and this doesn't mean that you get to do this, you have to earn it, but if you're someone like Tommy, for example, who has a high level of absolute strength, and as long as his technique is, you know, on par with what you want, you probably have him snatching and clean and jerking at a relatively higher weight to what you would have an absolute beginner.
Yep.
Because he can handle the load, because as a relative to his absolute strength, it's quite low.
Yeah, true, but it's also like that. Then there's the juggling act of how fatiguing is it for him, because like, let's just say jerks are pretty fatiguing for Tommy sometimes. Absolute like killer overhead, but it just is a bit fatiguing. So you just got to make sure like he's got that absolute strength.
Is it because
there.
he holds them out here?
Yes, exactly like that. Being jacked has its weaknesses in weightlifting. But yeah, it's just like, it's all about that balancing act of fatigue from different movements. Like, you can't bench before you snatch. Simple as that.
You can.
You can. You just do it a foot in front of you afterwards. Yeah, so like it's like I pretty much every single person I follow some sort of like periodization for him, like start with a bit of volume. He's just a bit less because he gets so much from CrossFit, and because he's getting better at CrossFit, it's stimulating enough that he's getting weightlifting and powerlifting
in there as well.
Exactly. Because if he...
Is that a bit better for you?
that is a bit nicer.
I can see you dying.
It gets a little warm. Yeah, it's when you're a bit better at CrossFit as well, with the workouts and loads you're doing actually do carry over, but it also means they're more fatiguing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like sometimes he can't go maximally.
Yeah.
Like he can't work at that heavier percentage. He'll just be like, okay, we're going to have to do technique work and maybe one heavy snatch day or snatch.
Do you write that into their programs?
As in,
like, hey, like, because you don't know. I mean, or you might know. Do you know what his CrossFit training is going to be, or do you program his CrossFit training?
No, I don't. So I do. I more or less give advice.
Yeah.
I don't program for CrossFit. So, but if they say I've done this,
Yeah.
it's more of a reactive.
Yeah.
Because since I don't write it, or they'll be like,
Yeah. As a coach, personal coach, you can only like take a reactive approach.
Absolutely. So they say, oh, I've absolutely did that many handstand push-ups. I'm like, okay, we've got jerks tomorrow. Maybe we'll push that forward, do this here. And I'm pretty flexible with when it comes to days of what you do things.
Yeah.
It's more getting the work done and like knowing what you like you can and can't do on that day. So if you've got jerks the next day and you just destroyed your shoulders, like maybe deadlifts are better for you for that day and then move it around. But it's just being intelligent about that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I know a lot of people that are very like stringent, like, you know, this day comes first, this day comes second, this day comes third.
I don't think it's like absolute like it. If you've got the plan set up, that's fine. But like, there's always going to be something that happens. Like they can't go on this. Like, what if they miss? You say you deadlift once a week and you miss the deadlift one, but you like benching 3 times a week. Maybe it's going to be more effective to put that deadlift in rather than that third bench session.
Yeah.
Like if you've got that stringent, like this is how it's done. Well, what then? You take 2 weeks of deadlifting and your bench is going great. Like,
yeah.
Like it's very like changes have to happen, and especially with CrossFit, like when you
Change is always happening.
100%, and I think that's like every sport as well.
Yeah.
It's just like it's always going to be things that get in the way, and you just got to react appropriately, and just knowing the athlete a bit better, and just knowing like drop the percentage back. It's fine. Like getting some work in is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Like I do my programming mostly percentage based, but that's very like that's when things are going well. Like if you just destroyed yourself in CrossFit and you did these massive complexes, which tell me if you're going to do a massive clean and jerk complex before the next day is clean and jerks.
Yeah.
But like we can drop that back, we can put it another day, we can move something forward. It's all possible. And I think that's another thing balancing CrossFit and Supertotal is knowing what your goals are. So if you're doing Supertotal and it's 2 weeks out and you're like, you're working up to some pretty heavy singles for clean and jerks.
You got to prioritize that.
You got to prioritize that. You're not doing 3 front squats, 2 jerks, and then for a heavy complex, and then be like, okay, now we're working up to a clean and jerk actual single. Like it's specificity is key again. Like
Yeah.
You got to know what you want.
And how do you instill that? So like I'm lucky here.
Yeah.
Right? Like if an athlete does something silly, I'm like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
And like over my long time of coaching some of my guys, you know, like they've learnt that, hey, like they shouldn't be doing certain things and they should be doing other things. So how do you instill that in your guys where like you have like another coach in their ear that might be like, no, you know, like we're going for this thruster 10 RM today.
Yeah. Standards, I would say, and expectation from the get-go. People still do it. It's fine.
Yeah.
They're always going to, and that's the thing as well. if you're
I
doing,
thought you might rule by fear or something.
I wish I did.
Iron
I'm
Fist.
not a very scary person. It doesn't work that way. I have like a silent brooding maybe, but it doesn't really give off. It doesn't really work too well. But just the expectation and telling and a reminding of goals. Like, if you're working out for fun, that's fine. Like, and working out is fun, and Supertotal is fun. But you set these goals. You ask for my help.
Yeah.
Like that's why we're doing this. Does what you're doing help what your goal is? No, that's fine. Is it a detriment to what your goal is?
Yes.
Maybe we have to rethink what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or to a certain degree. Like, if it's 10 RM thruster, just don't go crazy. Like, enjoy your training. Because that's always that's another thing as well. Like, CrossFit's great, like, conditioning and everything. It's also fun. And it's like, if that's a stress reliever for you, that's actually going to be beneficial in the long run for adherence to other training and goals. So it's that balance, but yeah, just a reminding of like
what's important to
what
you.
is important to you. And if today's fun is more important to you, like, than your overall goal in the end, like, maybe we need a flimsier program or do something else. But it's like, fun now or fun later, or your goals, it's like, which one's for you? You've just got to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah. And as long as you two have at least had that conversation, you both can move forward and say, look, we've put our best foot forward.
Yeah, and it's just, I feel I give expectations pretty like just, if you do the training you get results, and if you don't be silly before it, the thing works for you. Like, it doesn't matter, like, all the principles are in place, the system's in place. Like, tell me if you want to be like, do that stuff as well. Like, it's also okay if you do that. Just, there's going to be workarounds, but how many workarounds are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
And with your newer guys that are trying to develop like so many qualities, how do you get them to learn the skills of CrossFit, or do you just leave that completely up
I'm away from CrossFit.
Okay.
I'm mostly just Olympic powerlifting.
Yeah.
When it comes to CrossFit, I'm
Olympic powerlifting. You sound like
Olympic.
my mom. Actually, no, my mom knows a lot about weightlifting. You sound like some lady.
the lifting things over the heads and stuff,
like
the big barbell stuff.
You do Olympic weightlifting. What's your bench?
Yeah, it's like, what's your bench? This is deadlift. That's this one, right?
Yeah, it's like the clean snatch, right?
The one you see in the Olympics, right? The one you watch on the interwebs. Perfect.
When are you going to do your second weightlifting comp? Are you doing Ralph Cashman?
I don't know when I'll do it. I think I'm going to do powerlifting first and then do another weightlifting comp. So I think I'm probably going to do a powerlifting comp maybe mid-year. And then I think that's how I'm going to go about it.
Like a legit powerlifting comp?
Yeah. I feel like maybe mid-year, then towards the end, maybe another weightlifting.
Who are you going to register with? APU? Or
I'm not sure yet.
PA?
Yeah.
Kappa?
Probably just see what's... I'll just choose one. I'll choose a comp and then go about it. I think that'll be the easiest way for me, just timing-wise. It's not like I'm competitive, so it doesn't really matter at this point. Maybe later on, 10 years from now, then I'll need to worry about federations and stuff. But
yeah.
At the moment, it's just like,
I'm just teasing because there's a million of them.
There's so many, and it's just like, unless you're an IPF affiliate, there's no that's my opinion. But IPF's the biggest world stage, and I think the most legitimate.
Yeah.
And unless you're an affiliate of that and are leading towards that, it should be like weightlifting. There's one IWF.
Yeah.
There should be one IPF.
I mean, not for long.
It's going to follow the same thing. I can't wait for an untested weightlifting comp, which is more or less the Olympics now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nerve-wracking what's happening to weightlifting at the moment.
I'd say, yeah, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, there've been like more and more drug scandals, and because of the drug scandals, feel free to wipe your face if you need to. Poor Ash is sweating.
I have a problem.
Yeah, because of all the drug scandals, you know, it's really hit or miss whether Olympic weightlifting is going to be still called Olympic weightlifting.
Like after, what was it, like Rio, there was that much scandal, and it was like, you're on the brink now. That's why like all the weightlifting, the body weight changed. Like that's, they reset it because
Because of that.
everything was dirty, and they're like, they put in all this new doping, like testing going into it. Like, yeah, you're pretty much on, like, this is the last strike, let's see what happens. And they're still all failing. Like,
Yeah.
It's just like, you're not going to be competing this sport. It's not going to be, like, it's the same thing, like, when people say powerlifting might be in the Olympics. No. Like, it's going to follow the same thing as, they're having that much problem with weightlifting, and there's non-tested powerlifting. What do you think they're going to do?
Well, yeah, like because they said that when the IPF got recognized by the IOC, and they were like, oh, that means powerlifting could potentially be in the Olympics.
Not a chance. Like, if you be realistic, like,
There's already one strength sport.
there's one strength sport, and that's on the cusp of getting kicked. Like, it realistically is, especially with these like Thailand scandals and stuff, and apparent like there's another, what is it, another documentary, King of the Lifts or something.
Yeah, Lord of the Lifters.
Lord of the Lifters, that's it. Yeah, that's like
Well, it's implicated basically the president of the IWF, Thomas Ayan, which is crazy.
this is a FIFA scandal. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
this is like corruption to the highest degree, and like we already knew it was a dirty sport. Like, obviously,
well, they talked to the investigator that went in and, so I forgot what the guy's name is, that went in and cleaned up FIFA, and he's like, he looked at the details and the thing, and he was like, oh yeah, this is much worse than what FIFA was.
yeah, exactly.
It is so much more rooted in the sport.
It goes hand in hand, really, like doping and weightlifting.
It started in weightlifting.
100%. Like, that's why like the Russians were on something, the Americans like, we're gonna get on something too. Like,
That's
D-ball.
exactly what happened. Yeah.
It was, hence D-ball. Like, and then it's like, I wonder why there's so much like doping in sport, and then like, I wonder why some countries like do so much better than others when like we all watched Icarus. Like,
Yeah.
just think about that, but like worse. Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
Crazy. Ash is gonna get killed tonight.
oh, absolutely. The
Some Russian drone is
Oh,
gonna
the
go.
Russians aren't even good anymore. After they've been.
Yeah, so now you're definitely gonna get
Oh,
killed.
Putin's coming after me. This is not good.
So you wanted to talk about energy systems a bit?
Oh no, I liked how you talked
Oh,
about
you
energy
liked
systems.
how you talked
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. It's more about like just, and like, I appreciated the way you guys talked about like periodizing between aerobic and anaerobic systems coming to a comp. And I think one thing I wanted to touch on though was maybe specificity in regards to that,
Yeah.
because coming back to goal orientation.
I mean, if only Steve was here, then he could chime in.
Yeah.
But it's a shame he's not. That means you're gonna tell me afterwards if I got everything wrong.
Yeah, like, I liked how you guys talked about that, but the only thing I was thinking is like, how much fatigue are you going to accumulate through CrossFit, and what type leading into a comp, and how much is worth it to, like, you probably can hold on to a majority of your CrossFit gains for several weeks with minimal effort, and if you've peaked for powerlifting or weightlifting before, it sort of sucks.
Yeah.
And how much are you going to add to that fatigue, like your bucket of fatigue? How much are you going to put in there for, maybe it's a stress reduction,
Yeah.
Like it's a fun little workout for you, but like the overall stresses that you're going to go through, especially for the final 6 weeks. Let's just say you're having a program, you go volume, strength, and peaking. Towards your end of your strength, like it's getting pretty rough already. You're doing those threes in the power lifts or something, and you're doing some heavy doubles in the complex, or even some heavy singles, even that far out, just to start feeling heavy weights again. How much is that going to affect your technique in the Olympic lifts, and how much are you going to be able to recover from the power lifts whilst maintaining like a specific level of CrossFit?
Yeah.
Like load.
So I think your load in CrossFit has to be greatly reduced. In those final weeks when you're peaking, I would say that like, let's not even call it CrossFit, let's just call it like your fitness or GPP stuff is going to be bare minimum. I would reduce it down to things like steady state work that's low impact and low fatigue on your joints. So like I would take out all like kipping movements. I would take out like jumps, box jumps, unless those were in your program that entire time and you've built up a tolerance to certain types of things.
And you still want to taper that down, because if you like any Olympic lifting or powerlifting program, you're not going to have anything, well you can, but like you want to be very specific, especially if you've got 5 lifts to go through rather than 3 or 2. Like you can have multiple variations for power lifts sometimes, like leading in, but even like the last 3 weeks, your squat, bench, and deading to your competition standard. Like you want to get, like, when it comes down to it, it's a sport and you need to be specific.
Yeah.
You need to squat. You want to squat the way you're going to. You need to be doing ones. You need to be doing singles, because that is a sport. And if you do, I'm telling you right now, like if you do a couple of heavy singles at deadlift, maybe you had clean and jerk that day, and then you're doing some heavy deadlifts, like even a box jump, even if you have a resistance to it, it will, you won't want to do it. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And it won't be beneficial, especially like it becomes arduous. Like it becomes like very doing heavy singles, especially towards the end. And I would worry that CrossFit would be an escape as well, or GPP, to avoid, like you would put additional effort into these steady state. Even if it's like you're on the roller for a bit, you're probably going to enjoy it that much more, because like, it's not typically fun usually, but it is fun when you've been doing 3 or 4 weeks of heavy deadlifts and that's it.
Yeah, peaking sucks.
It does. Like
the best part of competing is when it's over.
The peak is rough, and it's rougher, even rougher when it comes to Supertotal, because it's like mentally taxing as well compared to like powerlifting. It's like powerlifting, it is physically taxing and like all your joints hurt. Olympic weightlifting, I've only done a couple peaks and 1 proper peak, but it's pretty mentally taxing and physically, but it's 2 lifts, so you get that combination. It's just rough. Like you are strong 4 weeks out. If you feel good, you're smoking lifts, you're hitting that heavy triple on the back squat you're gonna hit before, things are going well. It's like, oh, now 4 weeks of singles, less fun.
yeah. And that's the funny thing. Everyone thinks like it's so glamorous to just hit singles all the time, but you can only tolerate that for so long, like before it starts.
No time, and it's just
breaking
like,
you.
And singles are fun once or twice, because you get that oh yeah, I haven't hit this before, but like this will touch on like general strength and specific strength, because that's what a peak is for.
Yeah. And
like a single is fun when you just taste that special strength for a sec. You've built up that general strength and you just do 1 or 2 singles, couple of weeks, and oh, PB, nice. When you're doing that for 5 lifts and you're just like, you need to develop that technique, dial it in, training isn't that fun. It's more of it's a task. Sometimes it's fun some days, but you're dialing in those singles, it's just rough. And for a snatch after back squat, I've lost my train of thought.
Yeah. It is tough to do. And then I guess to rewind back to what I was talking about as well, I agree completely with you. What I would do is I would go, you know, I get that CrossFit is your escape in this scenario. Maybe you're not like a really competitive lifter, you're doing this for fun and you just want to get better at these 6 lifts, and we're coming up to a comp, so we want to make sure we're maximizing the amount of gains that we've got.
Yep.
And we want to decay a little bit of fatigue. I would say spend some time on an air dyne, spend some time on a rower. That is, you know, air dyne's better because it's less taxing, but you're on there for a little bit longer. Maybe you put together a circuit of your accessory work, because usually we don't completely get rid of accessory work.
Just taper it down towards
Just
the end.
taper it down. So we just, you know, play with that. Make up something like a 20-minute workout that's, you know, just short, really easy to go through.
Bit of fun.
Bit of fun. And you're basically only doing it for your fun. And I guess you do get a certain level of fitness from it too, which can help you, because Supertotal is a long day.
It's very long. It hasn't been done to that degree before, and it's like, it was a full IPF, IWF comp, like it followed the same like procedure, so it was long, like proper weights, like it wasn't a complex of the 5 lifts. It was a long day.
But yeah, so like that's, I guess, does that kind of
I agree. It's just it was more, I wanted to talk about like goal orientation and knowing that like you can't peak for a CrossFit
everything.
comp and a weightlifting and powerlifting comp simultaneously. Like, I think the idea of periodization is necessary in regards to like the same thing. If you've got a CrossFit comp and you're training for Supertotal, they need to taper down. You're not doing heavy deadlifts and you go to CrossFit unless it's part of the CrossFit comp.
Yeah.
But knowing that having a minimal dose of a specific aspect of training and maintaining while ramping up other aspects is the key to periodization in all sports, and that carries over to Supertotal and CrossFit, because if we're competing, it's a sport, and knowing that like having specific phases that are advantageous towards the next ones is great. Like, that's the main thing I wanted to just touch on, is having that at the start, having you have high volume, like as you stated, like you had a high intensity, let's just call it cardio for CrossFit. It's like you're doing high volume in regards to your specific lifts as well. Like that's where you do your 5s that far out.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think you could be competing at a high level in a CrossFit comp and hit your best ever of the 5 lifts? Or would you say that it's impossible to do that?
My opinion is, obviously it depends. You can get a PB, but it's not your best possible. I would say your general strength is peaking towards a CrossFit comp.
Yeah.
And adrenaline can get you over a specific amount, but you haven't developed the special strength, so you haven't peaked. So if you did a proper peak in regards to one of those lifts, you would exceed that. I would not question that.
But there is no way to quantify what you're saying, because
no,
we can't ever test them
equally.
equally.
Yeah, you can't have.
There's no control.
There's no control. You have 2 twins. One of them goes through a CrossFit comp and tests, and the other one, they have identical training, identical everything, and then one does a CrossFit comp and attempts to max clean and jerk, and then another one follows a specific 4-week block that peaks towards a clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Like, even just logically, it doesn't make sense to say, oh, like, you can hit a PB. Again, you can hit a PB, but it's not your best.
Yeah.
Because you haven't, like, there's a reason every sport ever peaks towards competition. Reduce the fatigue, like maintain fitness, decrease the fatigue, specifically train towards the sport. That will yield you better results. There's no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah. All of your understanding of programming theory and whatnot would lead you to believe that.
Yeah, and it's just the full body of research. If that was the case, people would just CrossFit as much as they want, then rock up to the Olympics and be like, "Oh, just see how it goes." Like,
isn't that what Tia did?
More or less, but she's just a freak of nature, and like there's differences there. It's like, and also it's, did you get it in spite or because?
Yeah.
Like, did you get that clean and jerk in spite of all the work you did previous? Or did you get it because of the work you did previous? And I think they're conflated a bunch. Like, oh, I was doing all this work and then I just got a PB. And it's like, you're conflating the two. It could have been you degraded the fatigue from other aspects over time, and that just happened to be adrenaline. Other trainings were going well. Like, those two things are always misconstrued as the same thing.
That's a really good answer. Like, I don't think I could have said anything better. Did well.
I'm trying. I think I've thought about that before, because it's like when PBs come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And like that happens, but that's why we peak to PBs not come out of nowhere. We want to come into a specific situation, controlling as many variables as possible and having some idea of where we're going to end up, and that is found to be the best approach for all sports, especially weightlifting and powerlifting, what we're talking about.
It's like that, you know, that day when you're training and you have to hit 80% for like a double, and you've done it like 20 times before that, and then you walk into the gym and you can't even snatch 80% or 75%. It works the other way as well.
100%. We all have good days and bad days, and it's like, it just happens. It's like, you slept great, heaps of food, you don't realize you're weighing in an extra 5 kilos after you've just been binging for the last week, and you respond great to that.
Yeah.
You got a bit of weight, you're able to throw it around. Like, you've degraded fatigue. You actually missed 2 training sessions beforehand, and you've been overtraining. Like, you've been exceeding your like recoverable volume for the last 4 weeks. You took a couple of days off, you're refreshed, and now you hit it and you're like, oh. You don't think about the 3 days you took off. You think, oh, that 4 weeks of training would have destroyed myself. Or like, just knowing what works. And that's another thing, like tracking of what you're actually doing. And I think that's a bit more difficult with CrossFit and Supertotal simultaneously if you do it a bit willy-nilly.
Yeah. Do you teach your guys to low bar back squat?
Depends. That's a big depends. When people first start, no. I feel high bar back squat is better for positions in Olympic lifts.
So like for Supertotal, it has probably more carryover?
I would say yes.
Because you don't have that much time to work on low bar, high bar, front squat, overhead squat.
Exactly. I'd say, and realistically, I haven't been doing this long. So if I had someone for 5 years and I knew what their low bar back squat, high bar back squat, how effective they were at the two, if they low bar back squat, how did that affect their Olympic lifts? I haven't had the time to like piece together what works for different people and what doesn't. So it's just different considerations. Like let's say MJ, he low bar back squats, he was high bar, but I just saw that like that's going to be better for him, and it's not detrimental towards his Olympic lifts.
Has he shaved his beard off yet?
He trimmed it to a realistic what you have. Like, it's...
That's not shaving your beard off.
I completely agree with you. It's a cop-out if I've ever seen one. Like, he said he was going to shave it on the day.
If he deadlifted 200, right? Yep. I don't know if he listens to this, but mate,
I'll make him listen to it.
I'm so disappointed.
It needed to be clean shaven, and it needed to be that day or like very soon after.
Yes. Fuck. That's the second time you made me swear, MJ. And I'm so disappointed in you.
Oh, like, we'll set up another lift, and then once he hits that, I'll guarantee the shave.
Yeah.
Or
I'll bring the razor.
I'll just do it. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. Have a bit too much ammonia passed out, shaved.
Yeah, he's gonna be careful what's in that ammonia now.
Absolutely. Smells a bit like chloroform. Just like, oh jeez, out, shaved.
Yeah, so you change him to low bar back squat.
Low bar back squat. So it's more of like over time. Once the technical qualities have been instilled for like using a quads in a back squat, that's like if you don't have that, there's not much point going to low bar because you're not gonna have like the force like carryover like into the Olympic lifts, if that makes sense, and the positional strength. If you just go straight to low bar, I feel like it teaches bad mechanics for the Olympic lifts right from the get-go. You're like, oh, land in your squat with a clean, and then they try and...
Unless you're me and you can do that.
Yeah, like, congratulations on that, by the way. But
it doesn't look good and doesn't feel good. The back hurts.
I wonder why. But, like, again, like, I wouldn't teach that. Like, you've trained long enough that it's like, all right, that's the way it's going to be.
This is a very bad habit. I hope I can change it.
But, like, saying that, I don't really want to instill that habit on anyone else. So, when it comes to low bar, it's just a matter of, like, is it going to be effective for them? And do they have those qualities already instilled? And also, like, if things are going well, and, like, they've got strong legs, strong back, and everything's going all right, let's keep it for now. There's definitely other things we can work on and come back to that. Like, especially, like, the snatch, let's just say that. That's where a lot of effort has to go.
Yeah.
There's not much point being like, okay, we could be working on the snatch, which is probably the thing that needs to come up the most. Snatch and bench, usually the biggest issue for most people.
The lightest lifts.
Exactly.
For most people.
Yeah. It's just really jacked or good at snatches.
Stupid Tommy.
The worst thing is he's just good at all of them. It's like, oh yeah, but he's good at that as well. He's got a good deadlift as well. It's just like, you go through the list and you're like, well, all right.
I must say, and I hope he listens to this, he's a very well-rounded athlete, but he's also good looking. And he's a nice guy.
It's really annoying.
Fuck
good looking, shredded, jacked, good at CrossFit, good at weightlifting, good at powerlifting. Like, it's just, yeah. Is it tempting to sabotage him sometimes? Yes and no. I don't think it would anyway. He'd just respond. It'd be like a weird responder to some training. It's like, oh, I'm feeling great. Just like a deadlift is blown up. Like, who knew that I could tolerate this volume? So, like, cheers, man.
Yeah, just like, I mean, you always hear the stories of like the dude that, you know, the research that went into like tendon rehab, and like it was like they were trying to overload the tendons. You know, destroy the tendon, and it ended up being the best thing for tendinopathies. And, like, you do that to Tommy, and like he just like blows up.
It's like we're joking about like, oh yeah, you can't just do singles all the time, really heavy. You just like do that for 8 months, and he's just like, yeah, I feel good. I feel good. I think I might do a couple of comps coming up. Yeah, just like, okay, Tommy.
Have you ever messed with like a squat every day or anything like that?
I have. Like, when I first started lifting, like when I first was like, because I was just a little bro in the gym by myself.
Yeah.
And that's when I was just like started to read a little bit about powerlifting and stuff, and I just came across like the squat every day on like bodybuilding.com, and it was like the
Corey Gregory one?
Yeah, I think so. And it's like different variations, multiple days, and more or less I did that, and I went from, because I just more or less I never squatted. I had never squatted. Like, I never put a barbell on my back.
Yeah, so anything you did, you probably would have made gains.
Yeah, absolutely. But I went from like 60, well, you start with 60 or whatever, 60, 80, then I got up to like 140 in like a month or two after never squatting, and I was just like, oh, this is a thing. And then I just destroyed myself because I just kept on going. And I think that's just like the story of my life. But I feel like now coming back into things, like if you want to work on something specific and doing it every day in a smart way and having like heavy and lighter can really work. I did like a overhead press for myself. Like most things if they're a bit iffy, I'll like test it on myself before I even think about giving it to someone else. But like I feel like you could probably bench most days. Oh, I wouldn't even question that. If you had a 4-day-a-week powerlifting program and you benched every single day on that, I wouldn't think twice. As long as the intensities and volumes are like, as long as you are recovering and everything is in line, I wouldn't question that.
And I wonder as well, because a lot of the tightness and the flexibility limitations that you tend to get from benching seem to be like directly related to like load and volume, but like acute load and volume. If you like chronically spread it out, whether that would have less of an effect as well.
Oh, it's intriguing. Like if you just like spread it out throughout the week and didn't have a point, like if it was spread out throughout the week, you could definitely fight it as well. Like you would only need a little bit of stretching beforehand, a broomstick overhead after benching, just to dissipate that tightness. Might be a good way to.
Because you're not like, you're not grabbing, you're not increasing that muscle tone. You're obviously also not getting that pump, so you're not like.
Yeah, I would say just do lighter volumes and a lot of technique work. Like the transition between a strength and peak block, that might be like those sort of volumes, but at lower intensities, and then gradually periodize up. That's interesting. And especially if you do.
You try it and you tell me how it goes.
I'll let you know. But yeah, especially if you were doing that with a bit of weightlifting and it wasn't interfering too much, and you were consistently like working on your front rack and just like making sure that doesn't degrade. Because if you just like benched and then just like, like it's not actually optimal for a front rack.
So if you're hearing us at home, like you just showed the classic bench posture, shoulders forward,
it's like
spine.
Exactly, you've been benching for a while and it doesn't touch your chest anymore. That's like. Oh, we've all seen people. We've all been there.
Well, when I bench a lot, I actually get super tight, so it doesn't affect my overhead. It actually affects my front rack.
I was the exact same. So when I did a weightlifting comp, that's the first thing I noticed. So I stopped benching. I just cut benching out completely, and every single time I would have to go front rack before that, I'd have to spend like a bit of time, get a bit of weight on there, and push myself into it, and then I was just like straight into it, and I was very surprised, and it is surprising that it doesn't affect overhead like, much at all. But it feels like when you snatch after benching, it's worse. I don't know what it is, but
I agree with that.
It's just like the snatch feels worse after bench, and it feels like you can't get that positional overhead.
It doesn't sit in that pocket.
Exactly, but that general front rack, that first grabbing the bar and trying to get it into a front rack, it's not easy after benching a bunch. And it'll be interesting to see, because it's just like, it is almost, it's very different, the positions you're going from front rack to bench press.
And you would say bench is probably the most technical of the lifts, right?
For
powerlifting?
Yeah, definitely.
I would liken bench to the snatch for weightlifting.
Yeah, I would go maybe jerk, because it's extremely technical and people overlook it.
Jerk, yeah, 100%.
So people like, the jerk is genuinely like, people overlook it. It's like, oh yeah, just get it overhead, but it's so technical, and it's after a clean as well. So
there's a fatigue element.
It's a fatigue element as well, and that's why I think another reason it's overlooked, especially in CrossFit. It seems like you do a lot of cleans, do a lot of work in the hang clean and stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to an actual good split jerk, it's very hard to develop, and I feel the same with bench press.
I think you can. I mean, if you look at how many people can clean big weights and how many people can actually put it overhead,
it's a big difference.
It's a big difference,
especially because I feel
if there's a Venn diagram,
it'd be massive. Especially because like, if you're athletic, like if you're just a really good athlete, you come in, you're a good squatter. Like you watch like NFL videos and they're just like power cleaning 180. Like kilos, and you're just like, okay, that's incredible, but they can, because it's an athletic movement. But that jerk has that technical component that just like they can't put it overhead.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that's something that the split jerk is just so technical, and the positions are so nuanced that it's like very intriguing lift, I find.
It is, and like for me, it's probably the most challenging lift to coach. I feel like I've been doing this a while, like a long time, but I can coach a snatch like I'm so confident that you walk into the gym, you have a problem with your snatch, I'd probably help you out.
Yeah.
I can coach the clean, again, super easy. If you have issues with your jerk, there's so much that can be like wrong. It could be technical, it could just be like your specific biomechanics.
The biomechanics are so different in a split.
Yes.
So everyone's split can be like so different, and where they want to land and where they should land is completely different, and you've got your ranges of where you want people to be, then you're just like, oh, you actually can barely get in that in general. You're like, okay, well, we're going to have to work around this.
Yeah. Yeah, like, 'cause that's the thing. Like, you can power snatch if you can't full snatch. But, like, if you can't split jerk, you're always leaving room on the table. Like, a power jerk is only going to take you so far. And, it's a sagittal sport, but that split jerk has that,
Absolutely. And it's just the coordination demands are incredible for the split jerk. Like, knowing where your feet are both at the start and end and where they need to end up, like, it's just like having that foot pressure, knowing that, like, having the dip, and I feel like it's overlooked because it's usually done poorly. Like, if you do a power jerk for reps, you're doing a glorified push press. Like, you're doing an easier version of push press, and those two things are conflated, I feel. Like, people are like, oh, just carry over that to the way I'm going to do my split jerk. And that's where you have the split jerks that are at the front with short feet with bad timing.
Yeah.
Because those two things people confuse the two and think about, like, they bring over the 50 kilos for 10 push jerk or power jerk, whatever you want to call it, and they try and put that in the same slot as the split jerk, and it's completely different.
Yeah, very much so. So what do you see as the big issues with split jerks that your population deals with?
One, I feel like...
Other than short stepping.
Yeah, short stepping seems to be a universal initial problem. I feel like appropriate positions in the dip. So having proper distributed foot pressure in the dip, finding your dip distance, so how far you go down, having appropriate turnaround speed, like being abrupt, like, I feel like, and then also the trajectory, like that first stage, I find is the issue.
You just described everything.
No, just the first dip.
Yeah.
It's just that first aspect of the dip. I just went through the parts that, like, you could go through for that dip, but it's overlooked because you're putting it overhead, and it's like, I'm working with my feet, where are my hands? But if you don't have that foot pressure, if it's too far forward, too far back, it's always going to be an issue. And I feel like it's, again, because I feel like the jerk's overlooked, that's always overlooked as well, especially in warm-ups. Like, you can just drop jerk to like 70%. Like, you just do the smallest little dip off the shoulders and drop into your split jerk. It's fine. But you're just reinforcing horrible technique for, like, let's just say you've got 4 doubles at whatever percentage. You're doing more than 8 reps leading up to your weight, and then majority of those dips are performed like poorly in your jerk. And I feel like that is one of the issues with the jerk. It's just that aspect isn't taken seriously.
Well said, man. Like, I think the catch is probably overcoached.
Especially the specifics in the catch. It's like when it's going up, and that's another thing. a lot of short steppings because they're diving under or like because their dips are suboptimal.
Yeah.
It's just like they're actually not throwing it up. That's why I actually like a good push press, like Josh like likes teaching the push press onto the toes and to have a good bar path.
Yeah, that's a very like Miles Waddell, Angela Waddell style of teaching push presses. I always see their athletes doing it from Cougars.
Yeah, I don't want it as an initial coaching technique, but I also like the push press as a technique, but
As a teaching, yeah.
as a teaching tool for the jerk, and even just like the press is pretty easy at a certain weight, but it is a dipping technique drill.
Yeah.
Like it's not a pressing technique drill, and that's how I like to think about it. If it gets carried across, we'll see. But yeah, might work.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Very cool, dude. We've done an hour. We did well.
Awesome.
So guys, quickly, Ash was the guy that helped me bench lots of weight. one of the two people I really credit with improving my bench press. And it was just in competition. It wasn't anything special. I mean, it was special to me, but we didn't do any crazy things. He just came up and was like, let's do this, this, and this. And my bench press went up 5 kilos.
It was good to see. It was fun to watch, actually. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky that I can pick up on
you that's the thing as well.
technical.
You picked up on a cue within like 2 reps. So like that's you as well. But you listened. It was awesome to see.
And it helped.
That's all you can ask for.
So where can people find you?
Instagram, Next Step Strength. I'm around all the time at CrossFit already. So if you're around there or you want to come in, Saturdays 9 to 11 we do an open strength. I'm there. I'll go through any of the 5 lifts that you want to work on. And anytime you want to just message me about any programming stuff, it helps me out as well. Like any questions you ask, me thinking about it makes me a better coach. So I'd love to hear them.
Awesome. And guys, well, first off, Ash, thanks for reaching out the other day because it opened up doing this. But guys, if any of you have more questions, reach out to either Ash and me, and we'll either answer them or maybe we'll come back on and do another podcast.
I'd love to talk about more Supertotal stuff, any weightlifting, powerlifting stuff. I'll talk non-stop for any amount of time.
Awesome. Guys, you can find Raw Barbell Club at Raw Barbell Club on all of our social medias. So that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, see what the team is up to, see some cool videos. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, you get to see our weekly training vlogs as well as cool episodes like this. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And lastly, guys, if you love this podcast just like I do, and if you love Ash and his beautiful dog, where is your dog?
Just at home.
I thought you were going to say just in the car. I'm like, hey man.
No chance.
You shouldn't do that.
Taylor's at home looking after her.
Fair enough.
I hope you liked that episode. I thought it was pretty cool. Guys, you can find Raw Barbell Club at Raw Barbell Club on all of our social medias. So that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, all of those things. And if you love this episode just like I did, please go slap a friend in the face and tell them to listen to it. If you want to support the podcast, please consider donating. So that's going to www.rawbarbellclub.com/donate and just give us whatever you can. The price of a coffee. Making this podcast is so much fun and I love you all, but it does cost us some money and it runs on your donations. So whatever you see fit, whatever you deem the value of this podcast to be, please consider donating. Thank you to every single person who has already donated. I love all of you. You are the best. You're better than the rest. You guys are amazing. Remember that you can buy thumb tape from our website. So that's rawbarbellclub.com. Just look up our store, buy some amazing Weightlifting House thumb tape. And if you're in need of a weightlifting bar, we're doing a pre-order on Weightlifting House barbells too. So just jump online and have a look at that. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out, DM me on Instagram at Raw Barbell Club, or find me wherever you can. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the podcast, and I'll see you guys next time.